This is CBS.
Tonight on the news, Brevard County Police stressed no suspects and no arrests in the death of Amanda Griffin. The federal government sues the owners of a freighter stuck in the Florida Keys. Funeral services in Arlington for a Vietnam vet who had been missing in action. And the final chapter of our Newswatch Extra, When Crime Pays. I'm Bob Sokoler. Newswatch 6 is next.
No one is hotter than Michael Jackson. Next week on PM Magazine, get a close-up look at the biggest concert in history, the Jackson's Victory Tour, and see how Michael and his brothers turned Kansas City into Jackson City. Then we'll fly with a first-time wing walker when she takes off on the fantasy ride of her life. Those stories and more next week on PM Magazine at 7 on Channel 6.
Is Newswatch 6.
Good evening, I'm Bob Sokoler. Glenn Rinker has the night off. Police in Brevard County tonight are trying to ease the restlessness which has grown from rumors and reports in some media involving the Amanda Griffin case. Police stress they still have no suspects and have made no arrests, but they say the search for Amanda's killer is top priority. Amanda's body will be driven to Alabama tomorrow, where she will be buried at services for the little 5-year-old girl today. Family and friends mourned her senseless death. The Reverend Hal Kennedy told them they are right to question why God would let something like this happen. Little Amanda was abducted from her Titusville home and murdered last Saturday. Again, police in Brevard County stress they have no suspects, and when they do, Newswatch will tell you. Ever since we announced our Channel 6 Identikid program, we have been flooded with calls and offers of help. The names you are about to see are just a handful of those of you who have volunteered your time and services. We're going to try to fingerprint as many Central Florida children as possible and teach them of the dangers of going with strangers. We want to thank all of you who are helping us out in our efforts. The first Identikid fingerprinting will be Saturday, August 18th at Tinker Field in Orlando. Authorities in Seminole County are dealing with another homicide there tonight. The body of a 39-year-old Benny Johnson was found in a ditch near Sanford. Johnson had been shot 4 times. Sheriff deputies say they have no suspects in the death. Seminole County lawmen are also trying to figure out who killed a young naval training recruit last weekend. In Orlando, a man's body discovered in the city's exclusive Rosemont area. Construction workers came across the badly decomposed body behind the Commerce Center on 441 and John Young Parkway. Orlando police say the body had been in the woods at least several hours. A name has not yet been released. In Orange County this evening, a car hit by a train. The driver of the car is dead. It happened at the Pine Street crossing in the Taft about 5:30. A freight train rammed the car, knocking it upside down in a canal, killing the driver. The victim's name has not been released as of yet. A freighter stuck on a coral reef in Florida Keys tonight has the federal government taking the owners to court. The Greek freighter Wellwood ran aground on Molasses Reef last weekend. The government wants $22 million from its owners to cover the cost of damages to natural resources, penalties, and cleanup costs. The Coast Guard is still working tonight to free the freighter from Molasses Reef, the only living coral reef in North America. In Washington tonight, Congress decided to send more money to help El Salvador in its fight against Marxist rebels. After a stiff fight in the House, a compromise bill was approved to send $70 million to the regime of President Napoleon Duarte.
I ask you this, how would you like to try to be running a government under the conditions that President Duarte is trying to run it, when you don't know from one minute to the next exactly what kind of help you're going to get and how much?
Opponents to the bill said El Salvador has more money than it needs. Before the House finished for business, a month-long recess, it passed legislation dramatically expanding the nation's waste cleanup program. The bill would boost the so-called Superfund from $1.5 billion to more than $10 billion. The bill also allows individuals the right to sue the government to force action on hazardous waste sites. On the other side of D.C., a serviceman missing in action for 16 years in Vietnam, buried with full military honors today. Reporter Walt Hunter was at Arlington National Cemetery when the soldier's last wish was granted.
Commander Richard Nelson had told his family that should he die in the Vietnam War, like to be buried in Arlington National Cemetery. And so it happened that on this summer day, 16 years after he had disappeared in the Vietnam War, Commander Nelson was granted his final wish. Nelson's parents claim that the North Vietnamese have known their son's fate almost from the moment that his plane went down in March of 1968. But the Nelsons say the Vietnamese made them wait for 16 years as they clung to a slender thread of hope that somehow their son might be alive. That hope disappeared completely last week when Vietnam turned over 8 bodies to America, and one of them was identified as Commander Nelson.
5, 8. 5, 8. 5, 8.
And this mortal shall put on immortality.
Nelson's final resting place is in one of Arlington's most well-known and most beautiful spots, close by to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Like the Unknown Soldier, the exact details of Commander Nelson's death may never be known. And like the Unknown Soldier, it is for certain that Commander Nelson has never been forgotten, nor will he ever be forgotten by those who love him. At Arlington National Cemetery, Walt Hunter.
Sports car.
No, dear. It's a family car.
Sports car.
Family car.
There's no doubt about it. Ford Tempo is America's family sports car. With comfortable seating for a family of 5. With mileage figures that are easy on the family budget. With sleek styling and front-wheel drive that responds like a sports car. At just $69.28, Tempo makes it perfect.
It is a sports car.
Family car.
Family car.
Test drive both Tempos at your Ford dealer.
During J. Byron's August Record Days, the prices are falling in record numbers. Unicorn striped and solid polo shirts for juniors and misses are just $11.99. Famous name junior jeans are 30% off. Our entire stock of 14-karat gold chains and bracelets is 60% off. And a 40-piece stoneware service for 8, usually $60, now just $39.99. For record-breaking savings all over the store, it's time to go to J. Byron's.
It's the one question everybody asks. The answer? Baker Street Seafood Grill. Rated by food critics as the best place to eat fish in Orlando. Each selection from the menu's fresh daily catch, dolphin, shrimp, lobster, red snapper, is individually prepared, broiled over mesquite charcoal, and served with your choice of specialty sauces. Baker Street Seafood Grill. The great seafood taste you'll want to catch. Open from 5:30 p.m. daily. 2 locations, Lee Road and South Trail.
Checking other news around the country tonight, the fate of automaker John DeLorean is still in the hands of the jury. DeLorean is charged with cocaine trafficking, and today the jury finished a 3rd day of deliberations without a verdict. The judge in the case today issued a stern warning to the media to stay out after a producer for ABC's Good Morning America tried to contact several jurors at home for an interview. A state of emergency is in effect in Lawrence, Massachusetts tonight after 2 nights of rioting. This was a scene last night as violence flared between whites and Hispanics. 17 people have been hurt in the riots. A nighttime curfew has been imposed by the city council. Tonight we conclude our Newswatch Extra series, When Crime Pays. All this week we've been telling you how crime stories are making criminals rich. Tonight, Newswatch 6 reporter Dave Bryan takes a look at some victims who are fighting back.
In a few cases, movie makers or book publishers will fork over thousands to infamous criminals to get the exclusive rights to their story. In the 7 Charles Manson killings, at least 3 of the murderers have written books, but nobody bought the rights to the victim stories. But some of them, the families of violent crime victims, have very definite ideas about where the profits from those books and movies should go. Doris Tate, mother of Hollywood actress Sharon Tate, one of the victims of the Manson family.
Any incoming funds from their dastardly deeds should be given to the family that is left.
That is exactly what State Assemblyman Art Agnos had in mind when he drafted California's crime profit law. It freezes for 5 years any profit which a criminal or his representative would earn from a book or movie about the crime. It also allows the victim's survivors to sue for a fair share of that money during those 5 years. But Agnos' bill has its critics in Sacramento, like Senator Ed Davis, who charges it will have a chilling effect on jailhouse literature. Some, like convicted Watergate burglar G. Gordon Liddy, who has profited himself from his crimes, believe there may be a benefit from these books that goes beyond money.
I guess it would be of use to society and a contribution to the history of pathology to understand, if it is possible to understand, how the mind of Charles Manson works.
That's why author and ex-con Newell Emmons says he's now collaborating on a book with Manson. Emmons argues that if criminals like Manson are denied profits, then no one else connected with the criminal case should make a buck on books or movies either.
I don't feel like a juror or prosecuting attorney or lawyer, whatever, should be able to take the individual's case and profit by it.
But for the victim survivors, perhaps Sharon Tate's mother, Doris, best sums up the bottom line.
I don't know who would purchase something that convicts have written off of their crime that was so horrible.
But as long as there are so many of us willing to read the books and see the movies, they'll be written and filmed. And the controversy over who should reap those profits will also continue. In San Francisco, Dave Bryan reporting.
When we come back, Karen Coulon will be here with the word on the weather for the weekend. Plus, we've got one for all you good cooks. The Mondale family has just put out a cookbook. We'll show you right after this.
The great 84 model closeout sale goes on at Central Florida Lincoln Mercury. During July, we sold more new cars than any July during our 43-year history. This gigantic super saving sale continues during August with not just a few, but over 300 sale price closeout brand new 84s. Every car priced right on the windshield for your shopping convenience. Shop early while selection is best, while the 84 model closeout sale is going on at Central Florida Lincoln Mercury, where an educated consumer is our best customer.
Motor ignition and liftoff.
That's a familiar sight. I'm Wallace Sherrod. I was one of the first astronauts to ride the Apollo rocket. The next best thing to being there is seeing it in the new IMAX theater at Kennedy Space Center, Spaceport, USA. IMAX, 5.5 stories high and 7 stories wide. Hail Columbia. It's more than a movie, it's an IMAX experience.
Kennedy Space Center is Spaceport, USA, east of Orlando on the Atlantic Ocean and the edge of the universe.
Monday I race, Tuesday I tour, Wednesday I potter, Thursday and Friday I gad about town, and Saturday I fill up at Bell's Factory Outlet Mall.
Our beloved country does not really provide opportunities for growth, enhancement, and happiness for our so-called senior citizens.
So-and-so is 67, so-and-so is 78, so-and-so is 42. Who cares? In other words, these people then become represented as numbers and not people.
I'm a person, and that's a very rich feeling. Very rich.
And we hope you'll join us.
Monday at 9 on Channel 6.
The number 2 spot is getting some number 1 attention on the Democratic ticket these days. Geraldine Ferraro is emerging as the dominant campaigner for the Democrats. She's now getting 5,000 letters a week from fans across the country, and Jerry Ferraro has appeared on the covers of the nation's top magazines. There are even those who now believe that a Bush-Ferraro debate, if there is one, could draw a larger audience than a debate by Ronald Reagan and Walter Mondale. Has all the Ferraro attention got the Republicans worried? They say no.
Lady who's, what's his name, Mondale's running mate. And suddenly she's everywhere.
Mondale campaign officials believe Ferraro is so popular in California, they now plan to send her to the closing Olympic ceremonies. And the number 1 man on the Democratic ticket has just published a family cookbook. The 139-page Walter Mondale cookbook will soon be in stores across the nation. Among the recipes listed, fettuccine alla pimento, one of Mondale's favorites, I'm told, and hot dogs and tab, a favorite of Mondale's campaign manager, Jim Johnson. Well, hot dogs and tab might be good for a party that I'm having at my house on Sunday. And I got to tell you, the problem with the party is if it rains, we invite all the news staff and everyone in the station here to come to the party. If it rains, the house is just not big enough for everyone to get in it. Now, Karen, will it rain and will I have a problem?
Put me on the spot here, my gosh.
Well, what do you think?
Well, I think I might like to come, so I'm not going to forecast a lot of rain. I don't want to take the blame for it. How's that? I'll just toss it back to you that way.
Well, go ahead and do the weather, and we'll figure out something.
That's fine. Let's take a look outside. Nice night. Boy, was it a hot day today. I guess you noticed. Let's take a look at the almanac, pages 93 in Orlando. After a cool beginning at 76, that wasn't that refreshing, but look at Daytona, 96. This is a record breaker for them. More about that in just a minute. After beginning almost in the upper 70-degree range, 92 in Melbourne after a beginning at 76. Presently in Orlando, it's 84 degrees, the humidity 67%, the winds from the west at 7, and the barometer rising. And over in Daytona, 83, their humidity 74%, their winds from the south at 3, and their barometer rising. And in Melbourne, 78, their humidity 83%, their winds from the south at 9, and their barometer also rising. Let's take a look back at Florida during the day and some afternoon high temperatures. And keep in mind when we plot them for you that when we start out in Pensacola and go across the state, the first two stations were actually cooler today than they were yesterday. But as you travel on down, look at the 96 in Daytona. This was a record breaker for them. Their old record was set in 1942, so it had stood many, many years. It was 95 degrees, and we just had one reading in the 80-degree range today. It was down in the Keys at Key West. Let's take a look at Florida presently. About half of the peninsula is cloudy, and when we put our temperatures up presently, there's not a lot of difference as far as range is concerned. About 78 is one of the cooler, and 84 in Jacksonville, one of the warmer readings. A color enhancement of this will show you that many of the showers are beginning to die down just a little bit, but across the country, unfortunately, that's just not the case. Let's take a look at some really bad weather areas starting in the east and stretching back across the map. This is frontal rain that you see, and almost everything in advance of that front is in terrible shape, whether it's Virginia, the Mid-South, back across to the west. A color enhancement of all of that rain will show you that the outbreak of really severe weather is just all over about half the map, and behind that, some of the only pleasant conditions we have to report to you, cooler, drier air on the backside of that front. Overnight tonight, we can expect some really warm readings, not just in the south or the southeast, but all the way up the northeastern United States, and 50s also will make an advance from the Rocky Mountain states down through New Mexico. Let's take a look at the map features, and of course, even though this high pressure is weakening, it will continue to be our weather influence on through tomorrow. That map will just push the front very slowly to the east. It won't move too much, so our forecast is just exactly what you would expect. Mostly fair for the rest of this evening, and lows in about the upper 70-degree range, calm winds. Tomorrow, sunny and hot once again. A chance of an afternoon shower, we'll say about 4 in 10, and that'll be about the same for you, Bob, on Sunday. Winds very light, and temperatures, of course, just exactly as you would think that they'd be. East and west coast boaters, look out for those scattered showers, but other than that, light seas and light winds, and over the next couple of days, just the same stuff to carry you through your weekend. So there you go, Bob.
All right, Karen, I may have to throw out some of these invitations. Coming up, Rod Luck with his weekly dose of baseball bloopers, plus a look at the Tampa Bucks getting ready for exhibition game number 3. Sports and more right after this.
Hey, do-it-yourselfers, super handyman Al Carroll with another money-saving tip from Home Depot.
Save an extra $70 on a 9,500 BTU air conditioner for a large room. Be only $299 thanks to Home Depot's special truckload buy. $70 less than Home Depot's everyday warehouse price. Whisper Breeze air conditioner for rooms over 12 by 15. Super energy efficiency rating, 10-year compressor warranty. Don't miss Home Depot's special truckload price, just $299. Come save like crazy.
A new age of engine protection has dawned. A major advance in motor oil technology. Introducing new Exxon Uniflow. Completely reformulated to give super premium protection to every car on the road today. Every gasoline, every turbo, every diesel, every car. New Exxon Uniflow. Our most advanced protection ever. From Exxon. Quality you can count on.
Mr. and Mrs. Balin? The George Balins? What's a one-of-a-kind family like you doing in an ordinary place like this? when you could be at Florida Festival with 22 eateries and over 200 dishes to choose from. Everything from prime steaks to gator tail to chicken cocoa banana, or browsing 17 shops and boutiques, plus free live entertainment, all for no more than you'd expect at an ordinary place.
Florida Festival.
The SeaWorld Florida Festival, the one-of-a-kind place for the one-of-a-kind you.
Well, ready or not, America, here they come. Yes, now you can dress just like superstar Michael Jackson. Starting soon, Michael will be selling his own line of clothing that reflects his unique fashion sense. Coming to stores near us, everything from $15 children's pajamas featuring Michael's picture to designs in the several $100 range. Already on sale throughout Central Florida, but without a Jackson label. Single sequence gloves, flashy military-style jackets, and of course, those sunglasses. Who would use any of those? Anyway, all kidding aside, something at the Olympics tonight.
I would tell you, I got a Michael Jackson jacket. Yeah, and the inside it's got the phone number of 42 different girls. Here's Brooke Shields. My sister's in there. I'm going to talk to that kid. You
can have my glasses.
Ball players there.
Take my glasses, right?
Yeah, a lot of Olympians doing very well. Mary Decker, kind of a hard luck case throughout her career with injuries and what have you. Tonight she falls down, steps actually on Zola Budd's leg. Zola Budd pulled in front of her, and Mary Decker falls down to the 3,000, loses it. A Romanian wins. What do you do?
What a shame.
A lot happening, though, besides Olympics around the country today.
Yeah.
3 doubleheaders dot the Major League Baseball schedule tonight. Let's look at our scoreboard. The Yankees took 2 from Cleveland. Toronto has shut out Baltimore, everybody. Also in the American League, Milwaukee has defeated Chicago. Milwaukee picked up Frank Robinson, former Giants manager, as their batting coach before the game. It looks like it helped. Texas has defeated Boston 8-4, and Detroit and Kansas City are knotted at 4 in the 8th inning. In this ball game, early on, Tom Brookins will hit that proverbial triple down the right field line. This is the way pitchers hit when they hit, to the opposite field. Anyway, scoring Kirk Gibson and Barbaro Garbe, and it's tied up in the 8th. Houston in the National League has defeated Cincinnati. Atlanta in the first game beat San Diego, and the nightcap San Diego on their way to a win. Montreal beat Chicago, and Pittsburgh has defeated New York. Thank goodness for the Mets, because the Cubs lose. In this ball game, Mets now in Pittsburgh. Tony Pena drills Sid Fernandez pitch down the first baseline for a double, scoring Jim Morrison from second. And again, Pittsburgh goes on to win the ball game. Also, in 10, St. Louis picked up 3 runs in the top of the 10th to defeat Philadelphia in Philly, 3-zip. Down on the farm, Orlando beat Greenville, Daytona Beach beat Fort Lauderdale, and Lakeland has defeated Winter Haven. Last night in Cleveland, there was a classic umpire-manager confrontation. However, the umpire was really not involved in a big way. You see, in the Oriole-Indian game, manager Pat Corrales of the Indians did not like a balk call on one of his pitchers by an umpire. Let me show you the manager's reaction, exactly what happened. We'll go to the mound first. Corrales here doesn't like it. He says something about the umpire's mother, and he says, yeah, go take a shower early. Corrales throws his hat. Fans in Cleveland like it. That's the most excitement they had all year. Now look at Corrales. Throw those bats, Patty. When he was playing big league ball, he